session. So
I have to read this, Zane, right? You told me that I cannot participate, I cannot present without this, right? You told
I was
me.
looking for mine. I don't know where mine's gone as well. I was looking at that. I can't find it.
well,
Yeah,
this will keep you warm, Philip.
Yes.
You know, you don't really understand guys without hair, Zane. Sometimes we get
well,
cold.
look,
Yeah.
yeah, it's the end of year session. It's the end of year session. Yes, you are free to put it on.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. So
It is
well,
actually quite
welcome everyone to our December final session for the year 2020. And what a year it's been for everyone for different reasons. It's been quite a different year comparing to any other. So I will then switch off my camera for now to maximize the screen for the presentation, guys. So we can maybe do that, and later on we can turn it back on again, guys.
Yep.
So let's do that. So the cameras and sound also, let's mute that for now. Alrighty, so yes, December 16th, 2020, episode number 6 for us, 6 p.m. So let's kick it off. So first off, yeah, sound checks. I think sound is okay. We had a very nice chat at the start here with Ryan from Auckland and in New Zealand. So it's good to see that we have a really multicultural international crowd here joining us today. Yeah, we can interact via chat, and we can do that at any time while we are presenting. If you have any questions coming up to your head, just pop it in straight to chat. We will be calling out questions at the end of each presentation, reading them out, and the presenter or anyone, in fact, from the group can actually join in answering the question as well. And it's a quite freestyle group we've got here. It's not really formal. We kind of trying to be informal here. So feel free to ask any WVD related questions, whether it's on topic of the current presentation or can even be off topic as well. So and the session is being recorded, so it will be posted on our YouTube channel as well. Okay, so then let's look at our agenda today. So we're going through the actual welcoming presentation now. At 6:05, we'll have our WVD news, followed by Q&A. And at 6:30, we'll have our New Year smorgasbord of tips and tricks on WVD from the experts, and also Q&A as well. Followed by 7:15 p.m. will be WVD Ask Me Anything. So again, once again, we can actually enable our cameras already at 7:15 and have a breakout floor with cameras on, audio on, questions and answers. Also, feel free to share your experiences or challenges in WVD deployments. So that's the reason why we have this community and the support network here to assist you with any challenges. And if you could share any positives as well, that would be awesome to learn your achievements also on WVD deployments. So 7:30 p.m. our official part ends, but we can hang out if you like as well and continue our conversations and chats. There will also be event group photo opportunity if you like with cameras on. So let's move to the next part. So we've got, this is about myself. So currently working for a vendor, ThinPrint, also known as ZZip, and I'm also founder of this particular group, and on LinkedIn, quite a few groups as well. You can contact me if you like on the LinkedIn, probably easiest to find me there. So the WVD user group has been started by Neil, Stefan, and Patrick, and it's coming from Europe. So it has grown tremendously in the last 6 months. These statistics are probably a little bit out of date by now, And on the next slide, so this is the community website itself. The up-to-date stats are probably can be found here, where you can see how many members are in each group. As of recent, there were recent groups opening up in Spain, Belgium, and other countries as well. So there's close to 15 now globally around the world. All right, so what to expect? We will meet once a month, and there will be WVD news and hot topics, and recordings also will be made available, and hopefully meetups in the next month. For the guys who are already here, I wanted to check with you guys. Would be actually interesting to know which places you're actually calling from, are you dialing in from. You know, if you could maybe mention in the chat window, which is in the upper right corner, the bubble, chat bubble, which cities you're actually coming from. If you just maybe punch in your city number, city name, where you're calling from, so it would be great. So excellent, thank you. Ryan is coming from Auckland, New Zealand. Welcome. And Dirk is coming from Belgium. Awesome, guys. Welcome. We've got a test user here from Sydney. Well, perhaps you could maybe rename your entry here if you like. Yeah, so welcome. And Philip is also from Sydney, as far as I know. No, that's great to see. It's good to see that we are gathering pretty large crowd here. Right, and one of the final slides here. It's a communities for you. It's a support network for WVD on Azure. So if you have any topics, anything you would like to share, bring it up. We would love to hear from you guys. All right, and the contact details are here as well, so you can either reach out via Meetup platform or via social as well. So without any further delay, let's hand it over to Philip, if you are there, and we'll hopefully hear some WVD news from him. So I'll just give you the, here we go, the presentation right there.
Thanks, Zane. I'm always trying to work out controls in this GoToMeeting app. But you promised that new year we're going to go to Teams, right? We're not going to use this GoToMeeting.
Yeah, so we're actually looking at a new platform. Yeah, we're actually looking at a new platform, possibly on YouTube Live, or even GoToMeeting, or even Teams as well. Yeah, so that's possible. Possibly doing Teams.
Teams would probably be preferred for most of us. But yeah, whatever works really. All right, I'm trying to share. Let me know if you can see it.
Yes, we can see it.
Probably
definitely.
You see that glorious Azure calculator.
Definitely can see it.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
All right, let me move on. And look, thanks for everyone who managed to carve out some time today. It's a crazy period. Everything has to be done and finished before Christmas, and I really appreciate, anyone who managed to find some time and turn up. And probably, the number we have today is not extremely impressive, but it's challenging. I know personally. I actually have to move things around and commit a bit more to present today and to participate in the community event, because it's a bit crazy.
And this is commendable, Philip, because we all. I mean, I know how everyone is busy. It's just to make time for this. It's really commendable. Everyone's got family and different commitments after work, so yeah, and wrapping up the year as well. It's crazy.
That's my major complaint, if I can share, is wrapping up the year. And it's interesting. I see Dirk from Belgium joining us. And Dirk, and if I'm not mistaken, this is not the first time you're joining us. You said the time zone works perfectly for you, and that's the reason it's easy for you to kind of tune in and listen in or participate. Is that right? Dirk's probably on mute. But what's interesting, and something I wanted to share with you, I actually joined Belgium event this morning. I woke up very early, and yeah, that event kicked off like 5:30 a.m. our time, Sydney time. But I couldn't miss it because there was my favorite MVP of all times, Marcel Mura, presenting, and I'll be talking quite a bit about what he has done for the community, and some of the Smorgasbord tips and tricks would be actually related to his work. I couldn't miss his sessions. So,
awesome,
yeah.
awesome.
It was nice. Yeah.
Philip, I noticed the MSIX app attach on your first point on your presentation there. We actually have a whole presentation coming up in January, guys. Just heads up. Patrick from Kula from Germany will be presenting the MSIX attach in our January WVD user group meetup. So heads up to everyone. Will be an exciting session.
Yeah, absolutely. And Patrick is the man. He has already written quite nice guidelines, manuals on implementing it, but only a few days ago, and actually not for every subscription, not for every tenancy yet. MSIX app attach was actually exposed in Azure portal for public preview. Before that, it was private preview, so selected few had access to it and were able to play with it. But now it's available for all of us to try. And if you have nothing else to do during Christmas downtime and would like to play with, have a bit of technological entertainment, maybe the way to go. And there's nice guidelines and manuals, and Patrick is the man actually, who is one of those forefront people on the edge with it today, who can help you to get started. And it's awesome to have him in a session in January. Yeah. In other news, so Microsoft Friends have helped us to define quite a few new WVD dedicated airbag roles. So it makes it easier. There is less requirement for us to customize the roles for typical administrative tasks, right? You can leverage existing roles. And my approach is not to reinvent the wheel when you can avoid it. Keep things as standard as possible, and I think it's just one of these sort of best practice architecture principles. Avoid customization if it is avoidable, and new airbag roles can help us to achieve that better when you're setting up permissioning, when you're provisioning, when you kind of traversing towards the operations and you need to provision appropriate permissions for administrative staff, who's going to be looking after that environment, etc. Interesting feature in Azure Files. Azure Files is probably the way to go for migrating your file service to the cloud, and obviously for managing, storing user profiles in containerized FSLogix user profiles in Windows Virtual Desktop. Now, what is exposed to us again through the portal and APIs and PowerShell, I believe, is that you can actually do kind of a self-service recovery within a fortnight of a deleted storage account. This functionality was available through the support request before, if I'm not mistaken, but now it is possible to do self-serve doing that recovery. Quite a cool feature, I would say. We recommend, nevertheless, taking snapshots using Azure Backup as a management layer for Azure Files, for user profiles. That way you have that history, that way you have that version in your user profiles, if you like, that you can go back to, and it's under your control. But when worst comes to worst, apparently this new functionality can come to the rescue. Exciting feature in OneDrive. I'm not focusing a lot on the modern workplace functionality lately, but this is a feature that is very, I would say, important for WVD deployments as well, because you can configure exclusions for files and extensions, which means you can manage what OneDrive will sync, what OneDrive will cache better. So more manageability, I'm all for it. I think it's a great feature, and I think we all should kind of pay more attention to it and be smart about what's being synced to OneDrive and what's being cached as well. WVD screen capture protection, now in public preview. If you were following events and you kind of across what was going on with WVD lately, you have probably seen that WVD screen capture was kind of showcased by Microsoft friends some time ago, and now it's in public preview. It's available for all of us to try. I think it's an exciting feature. Organizations that are security minded and that prefer to have more controls would appreciate it. The funny comment I've heard, but my user can still take a screen photograph with their phone. Yes, they can. For now, they can. I know there were some technological smarts to have some sort of embedded watermarking. Somehow, this is not that watermarking. It's just a screen grab protection when you're using a client, Windows 10 client, to prevent those screen grabs from being saved elsewhere. Zoom plugin for WVD. Again, for those of us who follow WVD news updates, etc., and you're probably using, and I hope you're using it in your deployments, Teams audio video redirection media optimization was around for some time, and it's the way to go. You're moving away compute of encoding audio video from your session host onto the client device. Currently, it's Windows 10 supported. Big deal, right? You're removing so much CPU processing from the session hosts. You potentially improving user experience because it's more of a peer-to-peer connection for the audio video stream. Now, the beta version of a Zoom plugin for WVD is out there, and I've seen some community tests done. I believe Neil McLaughlin from UK did the testing and actually gave it thumbs up. Was pretty much flawless for him. And you know, this is one of the community leads who we tend to trust. So if, and when I'm saying if, quite a few organizations using Zoom these days, not Teams, and this is very helpful. Or, you know, my organization may be a little bit weird, or it's historical legacy. We actually use both. We have Teams in full swing, used every day by 80% of the organization, and we still have Zoom for some specific use cases, and some people just prefer it for whatever reason. Maybe they are comfortable with it. So this is a big deal for those kind of multi-conference and solution organizations, and for those who have Zoom as their primary vendor. What I'm going to do here, let me try, and I'll just paste these links into the chat window, probably once I'm done with those slides. And if there are any questions, or if you want to add something around the news, please go ahead, because I'm going to switch towards the payload, if you like, those tips and tricks conversation, the Smorgasbord.
Philip, I noticed Roel has joined us today as well for this session. Roel from Microsoft. Yeah, I wonder if Roel has any updates on any of these items here on the bullet points, perhaps on WVD screen capture protection, which is screen scraping, or any other items. I'm not sure if you're in a position to talk.
Yeah, this is a great list. Of course, there's a lot in the pipeline. There's a lot of thinking going on, but the thing that is very on top of mind with many customers is the working from home scenario and devices that are not managed. So anything that can be done to make it more difficult to leak information from those devices is important, and that's a scenario that is top of mind of product group as well. So we're looking at how we can address that, but it's likely also going to be addressed as part of the Azure AD Join scenario that we are working on.
Cool. No, that's great to know. Thanks, Rael. And look, thanks for joining us. We always appreciate your inputs and your kind of insider feedback and inside information, if you like. For us, it's extremely valuable because yeah, it's nice to hear from the source.
Yeah. The only thing there to note is that this is based on Windows API, so it requires a client that is Windows 10.
Yes. Yep. And Dirk has a question around Zoom plugin. Dirk, as far as I'm aware, for now, it's only for Windows 10, a full client, not for a thin client yet. If we're talking about Zoom plugin, Teams plugin, I'm not aware of that plugin being fully functional on Windows 10 IoT. And Rael, maybe you can add or correct here. For Zoom, I'm pretty confident because it's a better version. What about the Teams plugin, video optimization? Will it work on Windows 10 IoT, thin client version?
Not yet, but we're working on making it available for other clients like macOS, etc. as well. And yeah, for Zoom, I can't really talk on behalf of Zoom.
Absolutely, absolutely. No, that's great, and that's you know, some of the questions we do get, and obviously, yes, we're saying, look, Windows 10 kind of the fullest functional client so far, but obviously Microsoft Friends bringing up all the functionality elsewhere as well. All right, so I'll move on, and what was promised is a bit of a smorgasbord of tips and tricks and how-tos and did you knows, and I'll start with a simple one, but I was quite surprised and impressed. This event I've attended in Belgium user group, we had 2 MVPs in the group, and I've asked this question, and no one knew the answer. And they were quite surprised, and they said, yeah, wow, this is something we've learned today. So this is interesting, and my statement here is, did you know that not all vCPUs are created equal? Did you ever check Microsoft ACU, Azure Compute Unit? So this is an official performance metrics that giving you a kind of vCPU performance rate indicator, if you like, right? And I'm showing an example here, latest V4 series. One of these VM series is AMD CPU based, and the other one is Intel based. And what we have, and you can just Google Microsoft Azure ACU, you will get the right page straight away. What we have here is that actually for that AMD CPU, the range of ACUs per vCPU is this, right? And sample workload, D4AS V4, so 4 vCPU workload, compute, we're not talking about the disks here, will cost you around 58 Aussie cents per hour. So just pay as you go price in retail, Azure calculator. You get 32 GB temp storage with it as well. If you compare this with the latest gen V4 Intel-based VM, so everything is the same kind of, but Intel CPU inside, the ACU range is quite a bit lower. So my math tells me it's about 24% difference. 24% difference, think about it. It's like having an extra vCPU, having an extra core there. And the sample D4S V4, so same 4 vCPU, 16 GB RAM, run-of-the-mill server, compute is actually the same price, exactly the same price. And this one doesn't have temp storage. And I love temp storage, for example, to have my page file, you know, and by default, Microsoft Friends did a great job with, you know, Azure image gallery. So by default, the OS will be configured to keep the page file on that temp storage. So you actually, if you're choosing AMD-based machine over Intel-based machine today, you can potentially get 24% CPU performance advantage and temp storage for the same price. Yes, Intel-based machines are interesting for those who do nested virtualization. AMD-based machines cannot do that, but for our WVD purposes, this is a winner. These days, we do recommend to go with DA, EA series or NV V4 AMD-based series due to this reason. You got, you know, pretty much an extra core if we're talking about a 4-core machine. You get 2 extra cores if you're talking about 8-core machines, 24% CPU performance difference. And this is official stats from Microsoft Friends. It's not some benchmark metric, it's the official ACU count from Microsoft. So that was tip, or did you know, number 1, not all vCPUs are created equal. Check ACUs. And it's surprising that not many people paying attention to this. And yeah, it's interesting. You know, your cost optimization exercises may include VM type reviews, your scoping and your estimates for WVD deployments. may be influenced by picking the correct VM series and picking the correct VM series with correct performance and associated. So pay attention. I think it's a useful thing to know. All right, and next one. Not all GPUs are created equal. So check new AMD-based NVAS V4 series again. This is an interesting series because I think it's the first time when we got access to a partitioned GPU in a cloud. Definitely first time in Azure. I'm not 100% sure. I'm not going to claim that competition haven't done it before, but this is exciting because right now you can get a relatively small machine, 4 vCPU, 14 GB RAM, with quite a substantial temp storage, with 2 GB of GPU memory, and getting 1/8 of full GPU unit on it. And the price for this VM is surprisingly low. It's a fraction, I would say about 20–25% higher than comparable D series VM. The performance you get and potential user density is amazing. It would pay off. You will get more than 20% higher user density compared to run-of-the-mill D series. So when you scoping out, estimating, experiment with it, I encourage you to try a GPU-enabled new NV4 AMD-based series. And again, due to this partition GPU, it's also an interesting proposition for non-pool scenarios, for single session scenarios, for those dedicated VDI type workstations or deployments for Windows Virtual Desktop. And this is just a guideline. Don't be sort of hang up on these numbers. So 4 vCPU cores, 1 display at 1080p. What it means here, if I'm using some hardcore GPU apps, I've personally been on a couple of projects delivering engineering type apps like AutoCAD, Revit. So that's probably the guideline for the users that heavy GPU intense application sets. The recommendation is, let's say, that engineer running full 3D manipulation and rendering some real-time walkthroughs, etc. So this kind of smallest workstation type would be okay for a single 1080p display. And if you need multi-monitor setup for this, where you will have 3D app manipulating models or stretching across multiple displays, you're probably better off with going with a higher instance type, etc. So this is just a guideline. By no means it will limit people to use 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 displays. You can use multiple displays with non-GPU versions in WVD. This is just a guideline for GPU-specific applications and GPU-specific workstations. So again, you can use them in a pooled scenario. There is nothing wrong with that. And it's the same approach as the previous NV series NVIDIA-based. But it's interesting that you can get a fairly small workstation for non-pooled scenarios, so dedicated machine. And I have personally seen applications that will just not deploy on multi-session, because multi-session Windows 10e, and that's probably a separate tip, I should include it as a separate tip here, gives the app installer a flag that it is actually a server OS. I believe it's number 3. Sorry, I don't remember the exact term for it, but pretty much when the app installer queries the OS, it tells it I'm a server OS. So
Philip,
the apps, yes.
Sorry, we already have some questions coming in here from Derek.
Okay,
is it a good time now? Yeah, Derek is asking, and what if you want to use it in a multi-user for simple office?
Oh yeah. And Zane, I have already answered that. So
yeah, okay.
There's nothing wrong using this in a pooled scenario.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same. There is no difference whatsoever. But the beauty of it, we did not have such a small GPU-enabled workstations before. The smallest workstation was NV 8 CPU, quite expensive option. Now we have a much smaller instance to use for those single session scenarios. but you can use them in multi-user for simple office use. Yes, and GPU would be used for rendering any kind of GPU related OpenGL or DirectX.
Okay, excellent. And then follow-up question from Dirk: how many users would you advise?
Dirk, I will have to highlight this. This is my answer. Okay, this is the challenge, right? And yes, sorry, Dirk. Where I was leading to, I was on a specific project, with this engineering customer, and they needed a Sketchit app. I believe that's the name of the app, Sketchit, right? And they're like, no, that's cool. We're gonna do pooled multi-session. We're gonna give you efficiency, right? And this app just won't install on a multi-session in 10. That's it. Forget it. Move on. And that app is a line of business app for them. That's it. They had to go with dedicated workstations. They had to pick the smallest instance available with GPU to deploy their Sketchit. They had to go with single session, non-pool version, right? For those engineers that needed that specific app. So you may hit some application compatibility. We also seen some interesting driver compatibility issues with these AMD GPU-based workstations. And Ariel, I know it's probably not your cup of tea. You can't be across everything and everywhere. But I have to mention that Microsoft support wasn't really across this, and we had a bit of a struggle, let's put it mildly, figuring out which version actually fully supports the driver and what exactly that driver will support in terms of graphics acceleration. So there's some kind of caveats to be aware of, and that's what I'm stating here. Please, to do test, do POC the solutions you propose. Right, this is an exciting option. This is an option you should be considering, and even considering for kind of non-GPU must-have projects, because it definitely will help you with user density. I believe you will have a win-win where you would provide better user experience, and overall cost would actually be lower or on par, despite you getting that better user experience with it. Right, so please consider. But test. Okay, moving on. Right, one of my favorite topics. Rael, I apologize up front. I'm gonna be a little bit criticizing towards Microsoft friends, but not towards technical teams or teams that actually produce, but towards market. I'm sorry. I've heard from the customers. I've heard from a partner. They're saying, "What are you talking about? What automation? What? Why is it difficult?" No. Microsoft told us that it's fully managed. WVD just turns on and turns off by itself. I don't have to do much. No. It's all. What difficulties? What do you mean, Philip? What do you mean we need to implement something? What do you mean we need to actually think something through? Schedule. Oh, we have to log off our users. Oh, we have to turn on session hosts on schedule or on a trigger of some kind. But Microsoft told us that's not the case. It's all fully managed and it's so beautiful and flexible. So we have to dispel some, marketing fluff. I'm sorry. That's just the reality of it, right? So scheduling and automation options are great. The approach that Microsoft friends shared with us so far is robust, right? But it's not click install option, if you like. There is a little bit more to it, and there's a little bit over thought process and kind of user experience design, if you like, on your side to get it right. And what I'm showing here, I'll probably bring my favorite tool up, which is Azure Calculator. Surprise. And I want to show you something which I think is interesting and something you must consider. Sorry, I'm going to scroll to the correct part of it. I'm showing you the run-of-the-mill Azure Calculator. I've picked Windows Virtual Desktop as a service, and I think the tool is great to just give you that sort of sneak peek preview purely of a compute cost of your solution. There is much more cost centers that you should consider and that you should understand well, but compute cost center is important. In many deployments, it would be around 60 to 70, 80 even %, depending on your deployment of overall cost. So I picked Australia East, I picked pool And I said, oh, look, I have that mid-sized kind of customer, 300 users total. Their peak concurrency is 1, which means up to 300 users have to log in simultaneously. Their off-peak concurrency is 20%. What it means is I have about 20% of the employees who work after hours, who work on weekends occasionally or permanently. You know, we are in such a flexible work-life lifestyle, a lot of us at least, and you know, observing that that's actually quite a realistic number to have that. And usage hours, I've punched in the number 260 here. Where did I come? Where the 260 is coming from? So if we do 12-hour days, 21 and a half work days in a month, that's where we get 260. 12-hour days meaning, you know, most of the workforce is landing somewhere between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. It doesn't mean that everyone works for 12 hours, but most of the workforce is within that sort of flexible time frame. Obviously, adjust this to your project, adjust this to your customer, adjust this to your environment, right? We're using multi-session option. I've picked a medium workload type. It doesn't matter as much, to be honest, but let me show you the numbers. Picking run-of-the-mill VM, and as you can see, I love those AMD series. I have this little A here showing up, right? And what calculator tells me, oh, hey, Philip, you're gonna actually run 2 instances 24/7, right? Because of your peak concurrency. And then 8 more instances would be turned on for 12 hours every day and turned off at, you know, turned on 7 a.m., turned off 7 p.m. And if you do this smart sort of automated approach with scheduling, this is how much you're going to pay for your compute. Okay, let's remember this number. I think it's a nice, easier number to remember. 2,333, easy. And I'm saying, do I really want to deal with scheduling? I have to message all my users at 7 p.m. Hey, please save your work and log off. You can log back in straight away if you need to continue, because I have those 2 servers running 24/7, right? You can log back in straight away to continue, but you know, I'm in the middle of a bloody meeting. I'm discussing something with a customer, or it's not a pleasant user experience to have. But this is something you will have to do in order to drain those session hosts from users and shut them down. You're not going to be able to shut them down otherwise, right? Yes, this is automated process. It's not your admin sitting there and doing that, but keep that in mind. Now, in my organization, I actually know that, you know, we are not planning to X people, and you know, our user number hovers around that number pretty steadily, and I'm happy to commit to consume that much compute for a year, for example, right? And if you don't know how Azure reservations work, I encourage you, get in touch with me. I'll be over the moon pleased to explain to you. This is not a hardcore commitment. It is not the server that you buy. It's a logical entity. You commit for a certain period in a certain region for a certain family type. There is flexibility on how you can assign them, and there is also flexibility how you can deal with your reservations. You can actually upgrade, exchange them, etc., and only the term will restart, or you can give them back to Microsoft Friends, and they will return remaining proportion of the cost on a pro rata basis minus a small penalty, which is 12%, I believe, these days. So you only losing 12% if you return them earlier. But look what happened to our number. Right, my 1 year reservation, which means I'm just going to run all 10 instances 24/7. I'm not going to deal with scheduling. It is more expensive, but by how much? $500? So for these 300 users, I'm going to end up paying extra. Sorry, trying to be precise with the math here. I'm going to pay extra $66 per user per month to avoid that scheduling conundrum altogether. Don't get me wrong, on a large scale deployment, it pays off. That you know, $66 per user month adds up, and it's worthwhile your admin effort to implement it, worthwhile your admin effort to look after it. On small and mid-sized deployments, I would challenge you to justify that cost. How many admin hours you're going to spend to look after that scheduling? How many hours you're going to spend if something goes wrong? And all those session hosts running over the weekend, all your savings out of the window. Consider, think about this, play with numbers that are relevant to you. We encourage customers and partners who do small deployments, don't bother with scheduling. not on this stage. Just go with the reservations. And look what happens if I reserve commit for 3 years. And MSPs out there normally prefer or try to sign up their customers for 3-year contracts. Look what happens. It's actually much lower. It's almost those $500, 166 per user month lower than if you do scheduling in a pay-as-you-go model. Remember, 2.333 versus 1827, 1828. And by the way, you're paying this monthly. Despite it's a commitment, it's still billed monthly. There is no prepay. It's not CapEx. It's all OpEx. Same as paying for regular pay-as-you-go. So please consider. I hope this is a useful tip. I believe so. Let me move on. If you can see numbers on my screen, I've used a more kind of disadvantaged example, if you like, where I had heavier workload type, and obviously saving per user month was a bit higher. So it depends on your user density, how many users per vCPU you have. The example in my Azure calculator just now was for kind of medium workload type. For the heavy workload type, with scheduling, you can potentially save double that, so about 320 per user month, right? So it all depends. Please plug in your numbers, play with them, decide for yourself what you're going to do. And you can be smart about it, right? Nothing stops you from also, if you do scheduling, and especially in those larger scale projects, you can purchase RIs or commit for RIs for those instances that run 24/7. Yeah. And that will help you to be to kind of reap the benefits of both worlds, right? So you will be very efficient and have lowest cost for those instances that are running 24/7, and then do scheduling for the remaining instances, right? Again, I believe it's only applicable, particularly in countries with expensive workforce, on a large scale deployments, where it kind of pays off to save every dollar. Okay. I see Dirk's comment, remark, reservation percent given is not often correct. Dirk, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if percentage is very relevant here. What we are looking at, and that's why I encourage you to look not at the percentage of savings, but more of a final number, right? So we're comparing this number versus this number. Yes, percentage is a good indicator. But I would suggest look at the number, right? Look at the number as a total value. Cool. Okay. So I'll move on to the next topic. And look, this is Dirk, kind of my connection with you, because I've attended Belgium user group this morning, and I'm a big fan of Marcel. He spoke at that user group and showcased new features in his WVD admin tool. I'm not Marcel, but I will give you a quick run, and my line here, if you're not using it, you're missing out. It's as simple as that. Let me give you a quick demo. I believe I have it running somewhere. Sorry. It might take me a minute just to get it on the right screen. Right. So I logged into a WVD admin. So as you can see, it's a GUI tool. It can be deployed on your local machine, can be deployed on the managed workstation in Azure, whatever your preference is. It will use APIs and PowerShell in the background, so there is nothing fancy, nothing proprietary going on. So even, you know, if you will need support from Microsoft friends, right? It's only API calls and PowerShell. Obviously, Microsoft friends are not going to support the tool, but the procedures in the background are fully supported. There's nothing fancy or proprietary. And probably a bit of a jab into other third-party tools out there on the market that lock you in, and they're somewhat proprietary environments. Yes, they can make your life easier in certain areas. They will charge you handsomely for it. And I don't think you will get so much extra value to justify those, you know, $7-8 US per user month just to manage and build your environments. This tool does it all. Right. So the approach with the tool that we recommend our partners to take, and when I'm saying we, look, I'm working for a distributor, so I deal mostly with Microsoft partners, not with end customers, but we also working hand in hand with end customers when partner brings us to the picture on new deployments or helping customers to kind of advance in their projects rapidly. The approach we preaching, if you like, is embrace image-based management. Our servers, our session hosts, they're not cattle. Oh, sorry, they're not pets, they're cattle. We built a VM with a baseline deployment, and Microsoft Store images with Windows 10 multi-session and Office apps installed is a brilliant way to start, or use your custom image, that's fine. Deploy the baseline apps, and with MSIX app attached, things are even easier because you have less requirement or smaller need to maintain a big sort of variability in your golden images, even if you are a large organization with a complex portfolio of apps, right? Is that a comment? No, okay. So the golden image based approach, right? You build your golden image, you deploy your apps, you deploy your updates, you pretty much happy with it, with the way it behaves. You do your optimizations, your customizations. You can apply local security policies if you don't want to deal with GP dynamically, or apply a baseline via local policies and do some tweaks via GP on the main level, whatever your choice. With this tool, all you need to do after that is right-click it and say create template image. It will ask you where you want to put this image. There is an optional script path if you want to host those files somewhere. Let's say if your workstation doesn't have access to internet, you can create a blob storage and drop a couple of agents and PowerShell scripts in there, and you click capture. I'm not going to do it now, but please trust me, it takes about 20-25 minutes to capture the image of the VM. What the tool does, it snapshots the VM, it stands up new server, new VM out of that snapshot, and it sys preps that. So it will never touch your VM. It will not generalize your VM. Your image VM stays intact. And this is brilliant because you're avoiding any reactivation issues we had in the past. You don't have to kind of rebuild your VM, do some manual snapshot. No, just one simple right click, create template image, and you're done. And what you're going to see is your template image will end up here in the structure, and you can easily find it in Azure portal. You can add it to image gallery if you like, and I encourage you to do so because you can store the copies of your images in the other region, which is very smart. And we will talk about it a bit later in the session. And the tool does it all for you. So you will have a template that you can use to roll out your session hosts on a later stage, right? You go in the tool, you can use Azure Portal, no, nothing wrong with that. Azure Portal is very good for building logical structure for WVD right now. You create your workspaces, you create your host pool, you create your applications, or full desktop app in this case. And when you need to add session hosts, you just go roll out session hosts from image. And there is a naming convention you can use. Those hashes will do incremental number count, and you can create as many as you like simultaneously. You pick your image, you pick the host it's going to go to, you pick the subnet it's going to go to, you pick the resource group you're going to use, you pick the disk type, and I will be talking a little bit about ephemeral later. But let's say I love my premium. You can use availability zones, and this is brilliant. This is something I will also bring up a bit later in the session today. What it's going to do, it's just going to alternate session host placement in the availability zones available in your region. So for us, Sydney, Australia East, I believe we have 3 AZs right now. So if I'm doing 3 servers here, they will end up in 3 AZs. And if you know availability zones, it's a logical construct for us in terms of it's the same VNet. There's no traffic charges between AZs. So it's logically same entity where we're hosting our resources, but physically it's a separate data center. So I'll talk about it a little bit later. I think I have an interesting answer to an interesting question, to an important question, right? And you pick your instance size, and my preferences. I love my AS series, right? So I pick that. I tick the box because for WVD we license it as a Windows client. There is no need to pay licensing fees there. I've got a dedicated domain user that is allowed to domain join my session hosts, right? So that's a prereq you need to complete, obviously. That's my domain FQDN. By the way, I'm using Azure ADDS in most of the deployments, not traditional domain controllers, but obviously, you know, they're courses for courses. You provide your local admin password for those session hosts, and you provide OU where you want the session host to end up. As simple as that, right? As soon as I hit start rollout, it's going to start building the VM. By the way, you can expand all this and you can see this all in logs. So while it's happening, what are the management features and manageability features here, right? So let me see if I have any users logged in. Yeah, I do have my test user logged into this environment, and I can interact with this session. If I have direct line of sight from machine where the tool is running to the session host, so I can talk on internal IP. Obviously, we don't assign any external IPs to session hosts. I can actually do session mirroring. So if I have enough permissions, and you know, there's a separate article on how to set up least privileges with customized role for that session mirroring, I can actually do session mirroring, shadowing in Citrix terminology, which is brilliant. I can do basics like, you know, sending messages to my users if I need to. And this is how it's going to look like. So if I get to my session, yeah, there we go. I'm from IT, right? As a user, I can see that. Let me minimize my WVD session. When we had the discussion with Marcel, he said they have a feedback from a customer in Brazil with 15,000 users, 15,000. And because of the search feature here, it's very easy to find the user you need, right? And you can filter. Sorry, I have just one user logged in, so it's not very representative. You can kind of filter or sort by all these parameters. So it makes it easy to find your users and manage those sessions. You can log off those sessions, you know, or disconnect them, or send messages, or interact with mirroring if that's what you desire, right? And he said they have 15,000 users. Obviously, you know, refresh takes some time. It may take a minute or two to refresh, but it's fully operational. And I believe this is brilliant. You know, this is what answers those operational questions on how are we going to manage it all when it's all up. We use to our Citrix tooling and whatever the other vendor tooling we've used in the past, right? Interestingly enough, you have similar controls on the session host level, right? Or as we can see, I think I have my new session host coming up soon. Let's have a look at the logs. How long does it take it? So it's still building, but I already see it showing up. And see the state here is unavailable, which is great that I actually know what's going on, right? And I can do basics with that machine directly from here. I can right click and do a few things, right? Or I can just select that machine here in the session host tab and interact with it. And one of the new features which are amazing, I believe, is you can actually do quite a few things. You can add your own custom scripts to the script library for the tool, and you can run your custom scripts. So they will appear here, right? You can do Windows updates. So those are kind of pre-created scripts by Marcel, and he included their own Cipago. He actually works for that business, Azure Monitor for WVD, which I think is actually a great monitoring option. It expands a bit on our generic monitoring, which is already great. It actually adds a bit on top of that as well, because they have an agent they deploy and they provide kind of user session linked stats, more in depth if you like, right? May be useful for your deployments and very easy to deal with. But yeah, you can run scripts directly from here. You can do so many things without leaving the tool, right?
Question from Ryan here, Philip.
Yeah.
Ryan is asking, can you remove unwanted images from WVD admin?
Ryan, you can do everything. You just go delete image, bang. You can go VM, delete VM, bang. When I was talking about cattle, not pets, I don't like this session host anymore. You know, I've got new shiny provisioning soon. What I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna say remove it. and it will say, oh yeah, it's going to be deleted, blah blah blah. Okay, I don't care. I'm going to go for it and see what's going to happen with my user session. It will gracefully log me off, shut down, and it will kill that session host, right? I have a new one coming up, so I don't care, right? Oh, it tells me it cannot delete because there's still some sessions, right? But let's see, it will log off these sessions and probably that error will go away. So let's see what's going to happen. I'm just going to do refresh here. Yeah, it's already unavailable. So let's see what happens. How many did I add? I think I went trigger happy and I've added quite a few. Anyway, let's see. Let's see what's happening. So they are still that's deleting VM created, applying customization. So we are still not quite there in terms of provisioning, but that should be coming in soon. Okay, so on the session host side, sorry, I was here. Again, you can do quite a few things, right? And yes, you will need to do refreshes on the interface, but you can remove, deallocate hosts directly from here, change host pools, etc. Okay, it's pretty exciting. Yes, it has refreshed. None of them is available right now. The first one I do understand why, and the others we provisioned obviously still. Easy to create this logical structure, right? And get this. So if I want to create an application group, so I want to present single app, I would just say test app here. Right. I can assign my users to it straight away. And in my case, I think I have WVD users or something like that. Yeah, I have a group. As you can see, that little G tells me it's a group. So I'm going to assign it to this group of users, all from a single interface. And I can actually add remote app from a start menu. Oh, sorry, for this functionality, I need one of the session hosts running. So I can add remote app this way. So let's call it, our favorite app of all times. And all you need to do is to provide the path to your executable, path to your icon, any CLI settings if you need to, and arguments, and you're done. I can even browse local apps if my workstation is same as this session host. Okay. If you have one of the session hosts running, the other option you have is add remote application from a start menu. So it will list all the apps that are available in the session host. And you can just pick the app from there, and it will fill in all these details for you, which is pretty cool, I believe. And same, you can remove them from a tool as well. So you can clean up this logical structure as well. Right, let me quickly check if we have those session hosts created. All right, so my VM deletion has complete. Okay, so session hosts are created. Please allow a few minutes to register the main WVD. Great, great. So I'm just going to do a refresh WVD here. And I'll go to my client and see if I can log in again. Please forgive additional login prompts. It's just a corporate laptop enrolled in one Azure AD and owned by it. So no resources yet. So probably a few more minutes. But you can appreciate, how much time it takes to provision new VMs, right? Sorry, I'm gonna try and get to that point where we're provisioning. Resource, no, okay, created. So it kind of created that server at around 6:56, and we've requested the process at 6:52. So in 4 minutes, and it probably take another 2-3 minutes just to enroll it into Azure AD and make it available for us to log in. Okay. While that is happening, I'll move on to the Preza, and I'll come back to it and show you in a second. And what I was getting to, or where I was trying to lead to, is an interesting point around HA and physical data center failure protection. And I'm saying, hey, actually, we kind of have it out of the box here, aren't we? We had this topic as one of the somewhat painful topics in one of the previous sessions that we had with this group and with the other groups, talking about high availability, disaster recovery, etc. And what I've learned from the field, the customer is actually saying, hey, Mr. Partner, will my deployment tolerate physical data center failure? They're not saying full region failure. Yes, some customers will obviously want that, and that's another story. They're talking not full regional failure, but a single physical data center, flood, fire event, whatever. So for those regions where we have availability zones, like here, Australia, East Sydney, I'm saying, hey, we actually have physical data center failure protection out of the box, seamless, without any, extreme design effort or implementation of effort or significant cost implications. And what I mean by that, look, the client side obviously not going to change. WVD management platform as a service operated by Microsoft France, and it's regionally redundant. Rail can add probably more here. It's probably not even regionally redundant. It's probably interregionally redundant. I don't know what's the term for it, but that's not going to fail due to a single data center failure, due to a single physical data center failure. Same goes to Azure AD. That's not going to fail due to a single physical data center failure. Azure ADDS, right? If you're not deploying your own domain controllers, Azure ADDS is actually smart enough to place those domain controllers in commas for you in different zones if you deploy in a region where there are availability zones present. Automatically, you don't have to do anything, right? It's by default 2 domain controllers, and they're actually going to be in different availability zones. Surprise, surprise. If availability zones are available, again, in the region you're deploying it to. If you use your own domain controllers, obviously be smart, deploy them in 2 different AZs. User profiles, that was our biggest question. How do we cater for it, right? How do we use FSLogic's alternative profile path? Do we use FSLogic caching to do that inter-regional redundancy and so forth, right? What do we do, RAGRS, or do we do some manual replication, or or Microsoft has released this disaster recovery guideline, which I don't like, by the way, sorry. And it's not answering all the questions, let's put it that way, right? If we're trying to protect just from a single physical data center failure, just use Azure Files zone redundant storage. It's actually a asynchronous, I must say, synchronous service that will commit writes and will not release the handle while the writes are committed to all 3 copies, because with local redundancy storage or zone redundancy storage, you got 3 copies of your data. And with ZRS, whatever your language is, that's going to be spread across availability zones. Wow. So physical data center failure will actually not affect my Azure files. This is brilliant. I don't have to do much. I'm a lazy guy. I'm not gonna. Wow. All right. What about my session hosts? Yes, you will lose capacity, right? So I've got few session hosts in AZ1, I've got few session hosts in AZ2, AZ3, and I've lost whole AZs, whole physical data center. Yeah, I will lose capacity. So let's say if I have 2N plus for Sydney, I've lost a third of my capacity. So users will lose their sessions. They will have to reconnect or relog in, I must say, relog in, right? And they will end up on a session hosts that are available if you don't have hard limits for the number of sessions on session hosts, etc. But back to our tool, how long it's going to take you to provision new session hosts? Let me try to log in. Let's just give it, real life testing. Are my session hosts already available? And sorry, this takes some. Oh, okay, not yet. Why? Let me just quickly refresh this. And I will just reload everything here. What I'm trying to say is it doesn't take a long time to provision additional capacity in terms of session hosts, right? I have them still in unavailable state for whatever reason, and I'm not sure why. I will try to kick them manually and see what happens. I'll just
Yeah, it's the joys of live presentation sometimes.
Oh yeah. No, I'm not too concerned because this has proven to be very reliable, and occasional kink does not upset me. So and that's a power state change. So in fact, they may have been in a shutdown state post provisioning for whatever reason. So that may have been the case. And obviously, you can also go to your Azure portal or PowerShell if you prefer, and check the status there. Right, so that's not going to disappear. I will refresh one more time and see if not yet. For whatever reason, sometimes it takes a bit of time, and in my case, I may have hit some vCPU limits because it's a test POC setup. And maybe there were some provisioning issues on that front. I'm not sure. I'll leave it for another minute and get back to it.
Come back to it. Yeah, we can come back to it later
but
on.
I can tell you from experience, it normally takes under 10 minutes to provision additional session hosts, number of them, right? So if you go back to this picture, right, you've lost 1/3, half of your capacity. If you have your images in Azure Image Gallery and they are replicated to that alternative region, for example, so they by no means are affected by the data center, physical data center failure, you can easily reprovision. You run your tool, you get your golden image. It's up to scratch. You keep it updated. You don't do much of a manual configuration on those session hosts anymore. You just add the capacity. As simple as that. And how long it's going to take you? I'm betting it will take you under half an hour to respond to that physical data center failure disaster. I think this is pretty impressive that you get HA and physical data center failure protection out of the box, not regional failure protection. That is a bit more complex and will take you time to design and kind of cater for properly. All right. Live demos. That's the theme, unfortunately. Not gonna troubleshoot it further. I'll just hit refresh one more time here. I will try to connect to that desktop one more time.
Well, to just confirm, it's a real life experience. I suppose it can happen and just requires a bit of
it may absolutely. Yeah, absolutely, it may. I'll just quickly jump on my Azure portal here and see if I can see those VMs and the status. Okay, I actually have status as running for them, which is pretty cool, but for whatever reason, not available for my WVD just yet. Look, I have to leave it at that. I apologize for any kinks in the live demo, but that's what happens to us sometimes. One more topic I wanted to bring up and discuss in this kind of smorgasbord discussion, right? Ephemeral disks, interesting option to consider. Okay. I'm not sure if you're across ephemeral disks, but I'm betting that you've used them in the past, because for a lot of server types, that temp storage is that ephemeral disk. That's what ephemeral disk is. So if I go to Azure Calculator, after I log in, hopefully.
So when would you use that option there, Philip?
Yeah, I'm about to kind of unravel that if I can.
Application, yeah.
So this is an interesting option that may help you to save cost while providing amazing user experience. What I mean by that, when we're building our session hosts, right, as a VM, you have a choice. If you pick the right VM type, of course, you have a choice of standard and premium SSDs, right? So if I'll pick my run-of-the-mill DA series, I can pick my premium SSD here, right? And you can actually see the performance indicators for it. By the way, these are burstable IOPS, right? They burst up to 3 times for up to half an hour. Same with the throughput. There is a bit of burst throughput available, but still, it's an despite it's a premium SSD, it's think about it as a SAN-based drive, right? It's not a local cached SSD. Those ephemeral disks are exactly that. That's a local SSD with cache that is sitting on the underlying physical cluster where this workstation, where this VM going to be running. And as you can see, on 8 vCPU VM, I actually get 64 GB of temp storage. And to be honest, for me to be comfortable with the image, Windows 10 multi-session and Office apps and few line of business apps and what's not, I am very comfortable with going with something like this, right? When I get 128 GB of temp storage, that's the size of my ephemeral disk. I don't have to use OS disk anymore. Minus $27 a month, right? But as always, pros and cons. You get amazing throughput, amazing latency. So it will outperform premium SSD. However, VM that runs on ephemeral disk, and the reason I was showing you the screenshot in the tool is just that it's very easy to use from the tool. Again, you don't have to script anything. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. It's already there. You can just pick it as the disk type and you deploy. There are caveats. You cannot deallocate that VM. So it's probably a good choice or interesting choice if you go in with reservations. So scheduling going to be a pain because it has to be recreated every time you want to deallocate it. And obviously, for your scheduling to work in, you don't need to, let's say, shutting down from the OS level will not remove the cost counter. You have to deallocate VM. And with ephemeral disks, you cannot deallocate. Once you deallocate, the ephemeral disk is destroyed. It's all gone. You have to reprovision, right? So when you combine that with reservations, right? So you don't have to shut down those servers. You only shut them down when you reimage them, when you update them, right? And you can do basic Windows updates. Again, you can push them through the tool. If you remember, we had this option, you can just run Windows updates through the tool or update your image and reprovision from an image, whatever works for you. You can use those servers with ephemeral disks, right? Again, you cannot deallocate them. Deallocating will destroy the disk. However, you can delete them and reprovision if you need changes. So it may be an interesting option if you go for a relatively large session host sizing, high user density, or high performance requirements from the user side, and you go in with reservations, so you're not planning to shut those underlying session hosts on schedule. Consider this option. Maybe a great option to embrace. And again, with the tool and image-based management, it is easy to use it. You don't need any specific know-how or some sophistication to use this option. Right. With that said and done, what is your favorite WVD tip or finding? Now I'm gonna shut up and listen, and hopefully you can share something that you have experienced. If you had any difficulties deploying or some interesting cases that you encountered, please go ahead, unmute yourself, share with us. If you have questions for me, please go ahead, unmute yourself, just ask. No need to type in the chat.
Yeah, thank you, Philip. Exactly. That's our part actually already for ask me anything about WVD. So feel free, guys, to turn cameras on if you like, unmute, and you could ask or participate just using your microphone. It's fine. So yeah, it's a good. Thank you, Philip, for the presentation. Let me just turn my microphone on and video.
Ryan's asking, how can you audit settings for WVD? Ryan, so I didn't include this in my smorgasbord. I think I was trying to cover sort of heavy items in this session, but you definitely enroll your WVD solution into Azure Monitoring. You must, right? And if you can unmute yourself and elaborate a bit more on what type of settings you want to audit, right? With WVD Monitoring, Microsoft Friends did a great job, right? It's very easy to implement that log analytics workspace and configure parameters for the workbook and deploy monitoring agents in your session hosts. It's very easy to get those performance indicators and to get those log reporting functionality, which will alert you on error, warning, etc. Up to your liking. It's very easy and straightforward, and there is nice deployment guides, and I believe there is even videos of one of our community friends. I think it was Travis from Seralto who kind of gave a nice kind of, I'll chew it for you guys, and here's the video to follow option as well.
With WVD admin, can you assign that to multiple admins to use at the same time? Can you and stop other people from using it? Like you, so people don't actually go ahead in there and actually delete images or try and recreate or roll out stuff.
Yeah, very good question, Ryan. Absolutely. So it requires you to create a service principal. Okay. Right. But again, I would refer you to our back rolls, or even, let me punch this in the chat. Our friend Marcel have answered this question for you. You can set up a least privileged roles for WVD, and you can assign those least privileged roles to a service principal. So your admin, let's say, will have a read-only access, so they can only see user sessions, they can only see active session hosts. They can do basic interaction with those, but they cannot create or delete images or provision anything, right? That's all easy to do. And of course, we allow our named accounts. Of course, I would not encourage anyone to use shared accounts to manage your environment, right? So yes, maybe a bit of a limitation. Maybe you will tie in a service principal to a specific admin. So let's say if I'm an admin, I've got my tool configured. And by the way, you can have it configured. If you are a partner servicing multiple customers, you can have it configured with this selector to switch between different customers, right? Which is brilliant as well.
Yeah, that's good. The fact that you can switch between different customers is also great, because, like you say, you're having everything in a single pane of glass to manage. So yeah, really good tool.
Yep. Yeah. So don't thank me. I'm just a grateful user, and I believe it removes so much friction, and it helps us to convince the community, and likes of yourself who are only considering how's my operational side gonna look like once the partner comes in and implement everything brilliantly for me. It's gonna look great.
Thank you. That was awesome.
No problem. Pleasure. Happy to share. This is what it's all about. Please attend all our sessions. We're always awesome. Maybe not always, but most of the time.
Convenience of that all-in-on one dashboard is great. Yeah, I mean, it's all there, all available.
Guys, it's free. What bit's free, right? It's I'm lost for words, really. That's a real community contribution, right? Because I see people figuring out, reinventing the wheel with, oh, this is how you build the image, this is how you add it to a gallery. Yeah, look, very large scale deployments, complex. There is a lot of room for customization. Definitely worthwhile investing your time in tailoring the solution for that customer, for their specific scenarios, etc. The majority of customers out there, and look, my personal view, and Rael, if you can, pass any gratitude to your team and the teams you're interacting with, I personally believe WVD is that democratized VDI, right? Now is the time. Now the price point, the integration, the performance is exactly where it was. We wanted, to be honest, to have that widespread adoption, and obviously COVID helped it. So yeah, look, I think it's a democratized VDI, and it's difficult to avoid when you considering of converging your terminal services, Citrix VDIs on-prem in private data center, or considering how I deliver robust modern workplace to my clients or to my internal customers. This is the way to go.
Just another question with the WVD admin. At the moment, does Microsoft have any plans to add any more features to it, or is this it?
So, Ryan, be careful. The tool is not official Microsoft tool. This is a community contributor built tool, right? Microsoft MVP, Marcel Murer, his blog here. You will see it in my deck and in my recording. Just Google WVD admin tool for WVD, right? This is not a Microsoft official tool.
Okay.
What Microsoft friends are providing us with is controls in Azure portal, right? Which are pretty good. Don't get me wrong. You just don't get all of this image-based management functionality. You don't get that extremely easy user management functionality, right?
Right.
Okay. You don't get all of that in one space yet, right? I'm pretty sure Microsoft friends would keep enhancing it because obviously, native way to do it is preferred by many partners and customers out there. But as you can see, there are quite a few things that are, available from the Azure portal. And for example, right now I'm going into sort of troubleshooting mode to understand what went wrong with my deployment, and I see the status unavailable for my session host for whatever reason. I'm not sure why. I do have an idea. I had some B4MS series there for some reason. Which is quite interesting. But yes, you kept quite a few controls in Azure already. The tool just enhances it. It's just the next level. I hope this is where the portal going to be in 1 year from now, right? Yeah. That's what I'm thinking. Because currently we're not quite there, right? You can do a lot, but you can't do everything. There is no easy way to embrace that golden image-based approach to management.
Right. No, that's all very good. Thank you.
Philip, in the past, we often got questions from customers in an on-prem situation. Then you have RDP. Why should we use Citrix on top of it? And then a lot of them were very Citrix-minded, and they were always saying we want Citrix and Citrix. So now that we're in a WVD situation, from what I read, there are also some possibilities to add Citrix to WVD. So what would be some use cases to use Citrix together with WVD? And linked to that, I had some colleagues who were very, well, sorry for the word, Citrix-minded, and they were always saying that, well, Microsoft was always about 18 months behind Citrix, and so Citrix got a new feature, and about 18 months later, that feature would be incorporated into, in that time, it was RDP, so we think it would do something similar for WVD, and so the two questions are, what are the advantages of adding Citrix to WVD, if there are any? And the second one, is it a correct situation that Microsoft is somehow looking at Citrix and stealing the ideas and 18 months later or something like that, adding them to WVD?
I strongly disagree with that. So there is a huge partnership between Microsoft and Citrix. Microsoft friends have stated this before WVD kind of went in full swing, that quite a lot of IaaS workloads on Azure are actually due to Citrix, okay? Due to customers hosting their Citrix environments in Azure. So it's a big partnership, and it's an embedded one, right? Citrix is a value-add partner, okay? So why would I pay for a Citrix license? If you ask me, for a lot of deployments out there that were using Citrix in the past, it's no longer required, right? That's my personal opinion, not my employers or not Microsoft's by any means. It's my personal experience. A lot of deployments out there no longer require Citrix functionality. With what WVD can provide today, particularly with the management tool helping you on the operational side, there is no requirement for it anymore. However, Citrix is a value add, right? There's some scenarios, there are some functions that your customer may require, which WVD cannot provide for today. Citrix had the best protocol in the form of HDX for some time. Right now, with this new version of RDP and something I didn't discuss today whatsoever, I'm assuming you guys following the news and updates, RDP short path for those corporate customers, you know, who are on a highly performant express route or quality VPN links that can have their users actually connecting directly to session host with the lowest latency possible, and UDP being used for that as well. I would bet that beats HDX, or, you know, not inferior to it, at least, right? I'm not a Citrix guru by any means, and I haven't touched Citrix environment in the last few years, but I know there was much more functionality in terms of the manageability, right? There was easier ways to manage multiple images. There was easier ways to manage multiple apps with app layering, but that's what MSX App Attach actually will solve as well. Citrix had their well, kind of take on user profile management, which no longer required with FSLogix and profile containerization. That is an inferior, in most of the cases, an inferior option as well. FSLogix is a better option in most, probably, you know, 95, 99% of the cases. So for a lot of environments of the Citrix is no longer required. And if you say Microsoft was lagging behind and the kind of the taking features that Citrix has released and releasing them in RDSTS, I would say the roles are shifted now. So Citrix has few options with WVD. There is an option with Citrix owned and managed management plane. So instead of Microsoft managed WVD management plane, you will have Citrix management plane, but obviously your session host would be hosted in Azure, same thing, right? Is that management plane better? Has some advantages over WVD? Sorry, I cannot tell you. I do not know all the details and how it functions and you know, robustness of it, etc. I can't tell you. I saw a case, you know, because I'm working for multinational, some colleagues in Europe, I believe it was, kind of shared a case where a partner was going for a Citrix deployment instead of pure WVD deployment because customer wanted a hybrid environment managed. They wanted their old Citrix environment on-prem and new environment provisioned in Azure. They pretty much adding capacity to their existing Citrix environment using Azure, if that makes sense. And they could keep the same tooling, same Citrix management suite that they used to use for the last 2-3 years, and their admin staff is fully capable and comfortable with. And that's the reason they were going for a Citrix solution, because they wanted to extend what they already have into Azure. That's, you know, one of the examples where it makes total sense.
Okay.
And, yeah.
Could this mean that, let's say we have a customer with a large on-prem Citrix-based virtual desktop environment, that in a migration phase, we could migrate using, well, we could migrate some users already to WVD with still the Citrix layer to have the same tooling. And at one point when everybody is in WVD, we could remove the Citrix part and then be into a pure Citrix, mixing up, and then go to a pure WVD situation.
Yeah, so it's important not to mix a couple of things here, right? When I described this kind of hybrid scenario for a customer, they were keeping Citrix solution in place, right? Mm-hmm. So they were doing Citrix on Azure, kind of Citrix WVD version, while maintaining their on-prem Citrix environment and managing it from a single kind of management plane, right? What you're describing is a little bit different, I believe, if I got it right. Where you're saying, can I move
during the migration? So you currently have that on-site Citrix environment.
Yeah.
And then you want to migrate to WVD. Sometimes it's something which is very easy. Sometimes it's something that can take a lot of time to do it. And we're thinking during that migration phase, you have some kind of an hybrid situation.
Yeah. Well, my answer is to that. Why not? Especially if you are, fairly large organization, and you have somewhat siloed users and applications, if you know what I mean. Different departments have their different images, they have their different usage patterns, different file servers to cater for, etc. It makes it easier for you to create those migration waves. Yeah, okay. and embrace that kind of hybrid model for the transition stage. My suggestion, and look again, it's my personal opinion. So this is user group. I'm not linked to my employer or Microsoft. Personal opinion is to challenge the customer on why do they need Citrix today? What is that specific functionality that they have with Citrix solution? How you can answer all those functional requirements with WVD. If you cannot, yeah, of course, you will need Citrix solution going forward. No problem. You've just confirmed it. They're on the right track. They're doing the right thing. But again, what I've seen in a lot of deployments, things that were impossible for RDS in the past are now possible with WVD. Right? Screen grabbing protection. One example. That was a showstopper for a customer. They say, oh yeah, we've got this great screen grabbing protection with Citrix and we don't have it with RDS, TS, WVD, whatever. We can't go for it yet. Now it's in public preview. It's going to be GA, early next year. And that customer has no red flags, showstoppers anymore. It can be things like that. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, it'll probably come down to specific features.
Yeah, exactly. You taking this architectural hat on and saying, all right, what are the functional requirements here? Can I address all of those? If yes, how do I address those? Right? And then you have non-functional requirements to worry about. It's just you go to those architectural principle basics, right? Yeah, I cannot address all the functional requirements. Is this requirement a showstopper must-have for you guys? Because if yes, then yeah, we got to implement Citrix solution going forward. We can't move you out of it completely. Yeah, we're going to host you in Azure. A lot of flexibility, additional functionality, better integration, whatever. But yeah, we have to keep that management plane because you're requesting features such and such. And the customer may shrug off and say, hey, actually, you know what, we will review the priority on that feature, on that function, and be happy with vanilla WVD, save a lot of money.
One of the reasons that we often hear is bandwidth. I'm not sure if it's still something which is really valid or something which is just an urban legend, but a lot of the customers are saying that a pure Citrix deployment without WVD, so the good old stuff, is from a bandwidth point of view much more interesting as an RDP deployment, and they then make the same logic towards WVD. It will be better Citrix with WVD just for the bandwidth.
Okay, so that's back to the protocol statement, right? So Citrix SHGX was way out there, right? I believe the current RDP version, and again with the short path, it's catching up, right? So I can't tell you. I don't have an answer. I don't have a hand-in-hand comparison. And it's something interesting to check, what the community has done so far. Have anyone did hands-on comparison, right? What I know, however, on RDP side, there are options, there are tweaks. If you're very sensitive to that componentry, right, and you're happy to compromise on image quality, there are different encoding options that you can embrace, right? There are policies for RDP protocol that will allow you to either have the best image quality with higher bandwidth, right? and probably less encoding load on his session host side and the client side as well to keep the session going. And you have an option to actually prioritize compression of the traffic, right? Compromising the image quality. By the way, very interesting point. Some GPU-enabled workstations will actually allow you to perform that H.264 protocol compression optimization. And there are some nice tables out there what your throughput, what your bandwidth requirements are like when you're using. Let me bring this up if I can. WVD bandwidth requirements. I believe I've stumbled across this some time ago. And that was an interesting one. Yes. Okay, let me share my screen again. That was an interesting one to cover. Okay. Can you see it again?
Yep, perfect.
All right. So, for example, and this is what Microsoft Friends did, and I believe this is brilliant. Right. You've got an idle session scenario. How much bandwidth it's going to consume? You've got user is actively working, typing, actually quite intensively here. That's the bandwidth they may consume, right? That's the bandwidth they may consume, etc. And you go through this, right? And you look, watching 30 FPS video, blah, blah, blah. And when we're talking about HDX and RGB and encoding, you can't get away from that non-unique unique traffic patterns like video encoding. That's where things are getting interesting. If HDX was smarter previously, just encoding the deltas on the screen or whatever, it has been the case like 7-10 years ago, whatever it was. Now it's much smarter than that, right? And you can see some bandwidth figures here, and I hope I will see the throttling. Okay, there you go. You got this throttling and GPU I was talking about, where you can actually limit and do some throttle rates. Yeah, this is with RDP short path that we mentioned earlier, right? So this is interesting.
Those numbers are interesting, but if I understand correctly, between the normal and the H2 something encoding, this will put some more load on the session host, I suppose.
So interesting point here. Let me just H.264, or I hope. We're just looking, and then yeah, quite a few community leads, present in this search straight away. I've stumbled across one interesting. I'm not sure if I can quickly get to it now.
Yeah, while you're searching for it, yeah. So the next year we've got quite a few main presentations already scheduled, guys. So heads up. So we've got January and February. It looks like already mapped out for us. We've got MSAX app attach and also WVD auto scaling. So that's going to be exciting. Start of 2021. For us.
Sorry, I can't find that very quickly, but what I remember is that when we're talking about the video encoding, right, particularly that sort of video consumption by the users with H.264 ABC hardware encoding, and ideally you would use GPU for it, right, because that will take extra CPU cycles, and your GPU has to support it. So remember my point about make sure your GPU supports what you want from it. You can achieve lower bandwidth requirements or lower throughput compared to non-H.264 AVC encoded. Again, applicable to video stream mostly. You're not going to get a lot of savings for just regular kind of user session manipulating Excels and Words out there.
Yeah, but using Teams or Zoom is already video streaming.
No, I disagree with you because we need to use that media optimization.
Yeah, right. There's now the plugin. Yeah, right. Okay.
Yeah, very important.
Sure.
Use media optimization.
Okay. Right. Forgot about that.
That's okay.
Except for thin clients. Except for thin clients. Okay.
For thin clients, yes, potentially. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. More questions or tips or any pain sharing from your side? Otherwise, I think I have family knocking on my door for the dinner.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's been great. So yeah, Philip, if you would like to maybe stop sharing this particular web page, and we'll have a group photo if everyone would like to put cameras on.
Of course.
Philip has got a special hat on.
Yeah.
There is a special hat on. Right. So, well, we'll just go on 3. We'll go WVD 1, 2, 3, and we'll just take a picture now. Awesome. Yes, done. Thank you, guys. That's been an awesome end of 2020. I'm already thinking of next year. But yeah, no, we're wrapping up. It's been a crazy year, and really, guys, appreciate your contribution to the group this year as well, especially our presenters, Philip and Roshan, who is not here today due to some prior arrangements, unfortunately. But also special thanks to Roel Shellens from Microsoft. I believe he's still on the call here with us. So thank you for your contribution on updates for the roadmaps and timelines. So that's really appreciated. And thank you for your attendance as well, guys, and your questions, your input, and we can continue working together. You know, even outside of our community sessions here, we can feel free to reach out for any technical assistance to Philip, and you know where to find him. Usually LinkedIn, Philip, right? That's the best medium.
Yeah, LinkedIn, email, whatever works. And then I'll use the opportunity and thank you and Easy as well for organizing the events and kind of keeping the community going. I think you guys are doing excellent work with that, and really thankful and feel privileged to be part of this small community and growing community, I should say, here in the region and globally. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Philip. Yeah, as the partner of Microsoft, Microsoft asked us to create some printing solutions for WVD, and so thin print originally in our Easy product. So we've got it embedded now in WVD as well. It's part of the Azure Marketplace at the moment too. So just for you guys to know, for any printing challenges from WVD on Azure to remote sites, we've got EZIP component. So EZEEP, that's a component that you can use for remote printing. Well, thank you guys once again. And Royal is actually saying also thank you. He's still listening in the background. So thank you once again, guys. It's been a great year, 2020. Hopefully we'll do even better in 21. So thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, bye. Bye. Bye.